Hi everyone, Soul Super 17 here, and let me first, as usual, did not own the picture, made the thumbnail, and this is not a paid video. Okay, so, started my new job. It wasn't bad, but I was really tired when I got home. So, in a sense, I, I basically fell asleep, and I was gonna basically work on this video, hopefully. I was hoping to work on it basically before like the afternoon or something, like I don't know, like 10. But that didn't work out for me. So yeah, I basically was asleep until 2 o'clock, and I did not wake up until, well, you know. If you're wondering what's that sound, just me erasing something real quick. So yeah, though, so I'm feeling that's gonna be happening more often now. So I'm gonna try and make my videos whenever I can. Basically, and let's see. And hopefully I can basically upload them when I'm sleeping for basically like after I come home. So yeah. Hoping. So I have an idea where this is gonna go. I'm kind of gonna rush it a bit because I do have to charge my phone. Even though it's at 59%, I still need to charge it because I rather have it on me. So, charge and stuff. So yeah. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the what if. Let's get this thing started. This is part 8. What if I was in danmachi? So yeah. Oh, also, Hades is gonna give me something out of like, well, I screwed up everything. So yeah, let's get started now. So, what happens is very simple. Recapping. I basically took on the Minotaur, got new basically equipment, got Essence Flask, killed Artorias, got his sword, got his shield, found out basically I'm literally in the first flame, and I got an Elden Beast, well, a tiny little one, inside, basically a part of me. Plus, I basically got some magics from the Elden Beast tattoo, which I will eventually get. I would just have to basically learn them. So right now, there's nothing of that sort yet. But yeah. And also Hades, I also found out, because of Hades' actions, the Abyss is basically going to cause some problems here. Yay! So that means monsters from Dark Souls will come about, and we don't know if the monsters from Bloodborne or Sekiro or any other Souls-like game that I basically, have in this, basically, that I have basically played and such, and, well, I got the powers from, or the stats from, are basically going to come into this world. Maybe a few basically are, maybe not. Maybe just weapons that we get randomly at some points. But yeah. So, let's get started. Into the story now, I mean. So, yeah. I'm repeating myself. Enough of the recap, and we basically are starting off with, well, Hades is just on his throne, just be like, I didn't know this was gonna happen. I didn't. At least now it's gonna be a lot more entertaining around here, but still, I'm gonna have so much problems now. The other gods and goddesses are gonna be furious with me. which basically the dungeon will have a message appearing on the wall that saying basically, so what you gonna do for him? He goes, you knew me so well, dungeon. Since I put him in a situation such as this, I I'm gonna be giving him basically three development abilities. Which the dungeon's like, huh? He goes, the abilities you get when you basically level up. You basically can get different developments. Basically like Hunter allows you to basically kill the enemies you have slain already a lot more easily. And any enemy you basically have slain already, you'll get an extra XP. Well, extra basically experience, or he's something, I forgot how you pronounce the name, but it starts with EX. Which basically then, or the blacksmith one, or this one unique one allows you basically have a miracle and could create magical items, or to create magical items, which will work hand in hand with blacksmith ability, but which basically the dungeon then just says, doesn't that mean you're basically gonna give him those three? And he goes, yes. The mystery sounds like basically a good one for him anyways. There was also one, but we don't need him to have find treasure out of nowhere. Which is just like a ... silence, and then it's just like, do you even know basically what type of other development ability he'll get? Which Hades, I was about to say before brain fart. But anyways, he's like, no, I can grant these ones because, well, I brought him here. I should be able to freaking do this along with basically get him random other abilities. Great, the gods are gonna really, really hate this. So, meanwhile, basically Belle was being told by Hestia about he leveled up and such, and that, well, he can basically now put in basically a few, well, I mean, not put in, but basically choose a ability since he has two. And she was telling him about the luck status and such. I mean, the luck one. Just give me a minute, everyone. Okay, anyways, so, as, basically Belle heard all that, he's like, is the luck basically that good? Which she goes, yes, it is. Which I'm like, trust me, it does. Besides, basically luck will actually help you find rare ores or materials and get more drops. Along with basically, with me, with my arcane ability, with my arcane stat, plus luck, I have basically a very good high chance of finding, well, anything really. Which basically Belle's like, huh? How does that work? And we're like, well, in certain games, basically arcane is used as the luck stat, so basically item discovery is a lot more better for me. That's kind of broken, don't you think? Belle just literally look at me basically with dumbstruck face, and Hestia is just kind of just nodding. It is, and only yet it works for him. Which I just put up basically a victory sign, which Belle's like, I forget how broken you are. Which I'm like, yeah, basically, I'm not supposed to be basically double S, triple S range because I'm in the 3000 range. Which he's like, huh? He goes, yeah, I guess it only works for me for that way though. While you basically only need 1000 and basically be 300 or something to be double S. Who knows? Which basically Belle's like, if so then, why is it 3000 for you? Which then Hestia would, well, automatically say, because this is a theory she would have thought up. She would say, well, it's due to basically his potential and basically the actions that he has, well, been through, or, well, will need to take. Which Belle's like, huh? He goes, for me, it basically would be hard for me to even reach triple S. So, basically minus 3,000 I'll hit. And then basically it'll be 4,000. Mine's basically 3,000 to 400, 4,000 being like triple S. As soon as I get basically to 4,000, I'll be basically, well, at like basically 4 S's. Which Belle's like, yeah, I know, it's broken. He goes, yeah, it is. Which I just chuckle at that. Which basically Hester goes, alright, now let's see about you, Soul. I'm like, sure. As then basically as soon as she's basically about to basically do the process, a note would appear, basically, and I would hear it. I'm like, don't tell me. She basically grabs it and opens it, and basically she reads it out loud. Dear Soul Kurosaki, it is I, the unknown god or goddess. I have decided, since of my consequences and my actions that basically have led to this world's basically a little bit of problems, because the abyss is going to be after you, I decided to give you 3, basically, abilities, well, advanced abilities, or development abilities, however you pronounce it. I don't really care. Just, in a sense, more skills are going to be given to you. Which, basically, just Hestia about to say something, and she goes like, you're joking, right? Which I'm like, Hestia? What's wrong? She goes, just... Basically, she says, just let me basically read this. So, here's the thing. These skills, or ability skills, or basically advanced abilities, whatever, are going to be 3 that I randomly chosen for you. Blacksmithing, since you already been working on basically being a blacksmith, why not have it be a way more easier time to create basically certain weapons? 2. Mystery. That basically allows you to use a miracle or make a miracle and create a magical item. Kinda neat. Nifty, huh? And the final thing. Hunter. Well, as you basically will probably hear, Hunter basically allows you to kill basically an enemy you've already slain. Easy. Well, and basically you gain more exilia, or well, experience as you would put it. Which, basically I'm like, so they basically gave me 3 new abilities, or skills, just because of the abyss. Which Hestia goes like, yep, and it's not all. He goes like, so, I hope you're glad. I mean, I had to pick them out and basically had to, well, make sure they wouldn't be overpowered for you, since knowing you're probably going to get overpowered very quickly. So, good day to you, Soul Kurosaki. Yeah, Soul Kurosaki. And have fun and don't die. If you do, at least die 50 times. It'll be way more entertaining. And then basically all of a sudden the letter just basically burns up. Which I'm like twitching. I'm like, I hate them. Which just has to just pats me on the head, like, it's gonna be fine. Which I'm like, no, it's not. I hate that unknown god or goddess. Which she does, does nod. I get it. Now then, let's see basically what has happened. Well, the reason why I even got these 3 new ones. She basically pricks her finger and blood goes out onto basically my skin, revealing my, well, danmachi stats in the contract. And, well, when she basically, goes through it, she basically like, pauses. I'm like, Hestia? Even Belle was like, Goddess Hestia, what's wrong? She goes, you became level 2. Which I'm like, oh, makes sense. She goes, yeah, after what I heard what you did, yes it does. Which Belle's like, what's this, but that's not the shocking part for you. She goes, no, he's supposed to be just 0, starting at 0, which I'm like, what am I starting at? 13. All your stats have 13 in it. I'm like, oh! Why's that? She goes, I think it's from the experience of fighting against this notorious person. It must have overloaded to me where you only had like 13 basically starts, well, new starting. Which I'm like, well, look at that. You gain that basically level up. Pretty good. Which she goes, yep, now then, let's, well, tell me how many souls you have. 43,014. She goes, you want to use them? I'm like, yes. Please. She goes, alright. So, here's the thing, everyone. You have to all remember. Basically, it's always going to be like, for some reason, it's going to be basically still like 1,300 and 1,000, like 300 and something. Like 10 basically points, maybe 10 more souls needed for every level up. By this point, I'm still going to be probably in like the 2,000s, 2,000 range at the end of this. So, I'm basically going to do some quick calculations and write this down, because here's the thing. I'm getting the arcane more along with basically probably luck, but I'm gonna try to basically make at least up to, I will have still 6,000 souls, so give me a minute. Well, I didn't make it basically all the stats 30, unfortunately. I was hoping, I kind of was doing some basically math in my head, and I kind of remember basically in Dark Souls they usually go up a lot. So, I kind of basically, even though I said 10, it would really actually be less than 10. Or like 5 or 2. So, I'm still just making 6,000. But here's the stats I have basically, advanced to 30. Endurance and capacity. There we go. Dexterity and technique. Luck and skill. Blood tinge and arcane. Blood tinge, arcane / advance. Those are the ones I basically have made the stats 30. I know I can basically do a few more, probably faith, resistance, and intelligence. But, and I also basically did adaptability. Yeah, forgot about the adaptability. So yeah, I still have 6,000 left, and I'm probably gonna basically do that probably in part 9 or 10 if I ever make them. I'll probably get everything else. But yeah, so basically while she does that, she basically goes back into the danmachi one. She's about to close them. Until then, she basically notices uh soul? Which I'm like, yeah? You got a unique skill for yourself you can choose, and that's the only one. Which I'm like, huh? What do you even mean? Wait, what do you even mean? She was Demon Slayer. I'm like, Demon Slayer. She goes, yes, Slayer of Demons. It means any demon type of enemy that you ever face, you'll have an easier time with it. It gives you a 50% more buff of strength and all stats, actually. Which I'm like, so when I face a demon, I will, yes, you'll be able to kill it easily, and this kind of will give you a double amount of, well, Exuvia, whatever, basically their XP. Well, in your case, basically XP, which I'm like, huh. Souls? Double. Me, processing it. I have no choice but to choose that, huh? She goes, yep. Great. Just great. So yeah. We do technically will go over meanwhile with the Loki Familia. Which Loki says, so, Eyes, tell me, you basically came all the way up and didn't want to tell me right away since you seemed a little bit, well, distant. She goes, it's just memories, Goddess Loki. Which, basically, Loki's like, oh, come on, Eyes. Basically, you don't have to basically call me that. You can just call me Loki. But still, but your memories. What's due to it? She goes, the adventure. Which basically she goes, oh? The one that I asked you to keep an eye on. She goes, yes. So Kurosaki has well, what I thought, she basically, like, kind of just has that flashback and trembling a little, which Loki sees, and then she goes, Eyes, what happened? She goes, he was just, he was basically impaled with a sword, which basically her eyes widen, and she goes, is he still alive? She just nods eyes really quickly, and then Eyes says he still moved. The sword was basically bigger than him. She kind of goes into a frantic state of it, which just shocks Loki since Loki never seen eyes like this. She goes, wait, what do you mean by bigger? She goes, I don't know how can I explain it. It's just, the sword basically was bigger than basically any sword, than like a great sword that I would have known. It just, he walked basically like it was nothing afterwards. After it was ripped out of him. Which Loki's like, huh? Then he drank something, and then now he's just. Now he's just basically alive still. I I thought he died, and he's just coming back from coming back like it's nothing. I don't understand. How does anyone do that? How does some human do that? Which basically Loki just gets in a serious moment of silence, and then basically she just sighs and then goes, well, we don't know. But I have a feeling we're going to find out sooner or later. But if it is something basically I hope it's not, something that basically could basically break this world, well, our rules and system of it, then I don't want you basically to, well, cause an attention to him. And if we do find out, well, I will, wait, not us, but I mean me find out, I'll let you know. Let me guess, you're worried? She does nod slowly, goes like, well then, I basically can see it. It seems, well, I can't get rid of him, since I'm also interested. Which, she's like, wait, what do you mean by interested? And what do you mean by me? He goes, oh, well, no, I'm not interested in the way you are. I mean, I'm interested in you in that way. Isn't that right, my little eyes? Which basically she goes, but then eyes go back to her normal self, goes, stop it or I'll stab you. She goes, come on, see? Which, basically though, eyes is like, but, why you, he goes, oh, I'm interested because I want to see what he basically can do. What type of, well, adventures he can tell and story besides. He may become a really good drinking buddy someday. So, Anyways, no, I have to basically go to the annual God and Goddesses meeting. Basically to give the, well, people basically names and slash titles. Just, oh, that's coming up. She goes, which Loki goes, hopefully, we basically will find out about this, well, Soul Kurosaki. If he leveled up or not, since you, well, actually, you didn't tell me. What was he facing? As if she goes into detail of what Belle was doing, then what I came in, and how I helped him kill the Minotaur, with some type of new equipment on me, and then all of a sudden, something was coming out from a crack in, it looked like the air, which basically Loki says reality. Crack in reality. But she was like, that then. And basically a knight came in and said it was controlling the body of the person, something called the Abyss. She goes, I see. Maybe I'll find out something if I, went to any other god. Any goddess to see if they will know. Maybe, maybe Athena would know? I'll check it out someday. So anyways, as Loki gets up, he goes, well, catch you around. Oh, and we better get back to the group and Eyes. Which she nods and such and leaves. Which Loki does leave, but on the way, she's like, so Kurosaki, you really are bringing everything interesting with you, huh? I hope you can tell me if it's a good adventure when you're, a little bit older. So, Hestia will go over and do exactly the same thing. We will basically cut to them later when they're all at the meeting and such. Basically, me though, basically Belle's cleaning, basically says he's gonna go into the dungeon, while me basically just sign like, hey Viru, as we would come out, basically, I'm still in the basically church under in the basement. She was like, "Yes, my liege." I'm like, "Want to go down all the way to the boss floor?" She was, "Huh?" I'm like, "Yeah, we can get you leveled up. What's your stats?" She was, "Strength 1042, endurance 1262, dexterity 1812, agility 1902, and magic 1000." Which I'm basically like thinking, I'm like, so it's just not me, huh? She goes, "No, it seems I'm also affected by basically your stats in the way of basically the more, if it's like 2,000, I'll be double S strength, 3,000 triple." Which I'm like, so if anyone who I bring into a party with me, or well, my familia, well, not my familiar, my familiar, would basically also gain exactly the same thing as me? Interesting. Let's go tell Edna and see basically if we can go down further. Uh, gotta go. I gotta go basically, gain this many experience. Maybe we can also kill the floor boss and basically, I can basically increase my stats really quickly. She goes, "I do not think that's a good idea, but going down there for basically Valis is good. You are running low on it, my liege." I'm like, "Oh yeah." True. True. Alright, let's get going. So I get up, and I basically go all, I already have my gear on. Basically, Beerus, in my shadow and such. As when I get there, everyone basically is looking at, well, the board. Which, no wait, they will post it later. Yeah, so I'll come back later for it. So yeah, so basically I get in there, basically Edna sees me. She goes, "Hunter!" Waving hi at me. I would just wave hello with my prosthetic arm. And I go over to basically, would point over to the door and she'll just nod in. Basically, we'll go over to this private room. I'm like, "Hey Edna, I'm gonna go down to the lower floor. Probably not, well, the second to last, the boss room." She goes, "Wait, what?" He goes, "Yeah, here's my stat sheet." She's basically like, you're you're level 2? You, you became quicker than anyone else?" "Yeah, I know." Don't know how I did it, but I did. She goes, "Wow. Can I see your stats then? I mean, on your back for anything else I need to know?" Like, really? She goes, "I want to make sure you're gonna be okay. I'd also see your skills and, I mean, just like, it's on the paper though." I'm like, "Oh, yeah." "You're just in disbelief, huh?" She goes, "Yeah, I am. No one's ever had like 13. Well, you just got this update this morning, right?" Which I would nod. So basically, strength I-13, endurance I-13, dexterity I-13, agility I-13, and magic I-13. And she basically sees basically Hestia Flame, Grave Hunter, Soul, Consumption, Armory, Forge, Heal Aura, Spirit Gun, Blacksmith, Mystery, Hunter, and Demon Slayer. She goes, "How did you get these 3?" Which I'm like, don't know how, just did. "And Demon Slayer?" Like, "Yeah, came in touch with a weird looking monster. Don't know how I did it. I mean, don't know what it was. Guess it was a demon." She was like, "Huh. So, can I go down further into the dungeon?" She goes, "Yes. Just, be careful." I'm like, "Cool. I gotta go over, basically grab something though. See ya." As I leave, basically, the Adventure Guild, as basically Anoa Kama just sitting in her seat, she was like, "How? How?" Which some, basically her friend that we would see in the manga and anime would come over like, "Is everything alright, Edna?" Which she's like, "No. It's just, you'll find out." Which she's like, "Okay." Just pats her basically on the shoulder. So yeah. So, basically, I would go over to the pub where Seal, Rui, Mamma Mia, and the two cat girls are. Which basically, as soon as I enter, some basically adventurers are, in there grabbing lunch or just like whispering, like, hey, look, it's that adventurer that basically was injured when he came in a couple of days ago. How's he still moving? One of them would say, I don't know. He's like some type of basically unkillable creature or something. Creature? He's human. He was like, not what I heard basically from the rumors. I mean, someone like him basically surviving that? Not possible. True. As I just roll my eyes mentally. So, Seal basically would see me, she goes, Hunter! Which I'm like, she's actually saying it. Huh. So I just wave hi at her. She goes, you here for something? Which I just nod. She goes, oh, well then, here. Which is basically a bigger meal than just a bento box. Which I'm like, tilting my head to the side. She goes, oh, it's 3 bento boxes combined. Which I'm like, blinking. She basically can see the curious look on my face, well, in my eyes. She's like, well, 2 people wanted to basically make sure you will have basically, bigger meal to eat. To keep up your strength. I'm not going to say who, though. Which I'm just like, shrug at it, basically bow and just leave. Which basically, when, Seal comes around, Rui was in basically the back cleaning up dishes. She goes, well, I gave him your bento box. Along with, basically, well, the other one you made. I had to say a third person did it. She goes, thank you, Seal. Seal. She goes, no problem. I mean, he'll probably like your cooking. Which, basically, Rui kind of has a little tinge on her face. I'm embarrassed because you're teasing me, aren't you? She goes, uh-huh. And besides, he basically also likes my cooking too. Which, basically, what Rui asks, how is Mr. Cronell doing? Which she was saying, he's doing good. He got his meal, we talked for a bit. He said basically he reached a new level. Which he's like, huh? Yep, he's level 2. Which Rui's like, wow. And now he just has to choose his new ability, growth ability. Well, she's like, I see. So, basically, what happens in the dungeon, I literally just go down all the way to basically before the actual, basically, floor boss. And I really just make a bonfire before it. Found basically an area where no one's gonna see it. Well, technically there's no corpses, so non-bonfire, basically a grace. Which I'm just like, I should really basically have basically dead. Wait, when would there ever be any dead bodies around here? I could just find a sword and plunge it into the dead body, turn into a bonfire. Ugh. Kind of be useful, because then I could just warp to them. Whatever. So yeah, so then I start walking back. Basically though, I had probably basically a good couple bags. A good full bag worth. Or 2. Worth of basically monster cores. Which, basically, this basically does increase my, my stats significantly. But not by much. But, by probably 100 or so, which basically, as soon as we basically come out of basically a dungeon, I hear Biro goes like, ah, my liege, I become level 2! Which I did have Biro kill monsters. Which, I'm like, huh, cool. So, let me guess, your stats are all I, basically now? She goes, yes, but I got basically a new magic ability? Well, magic skill? Which I'm like, really? She basically will say, yes, it's called, accelerate? I don't know what it means. Well, truly what it does. Which I'm like, accelerate means basically, hold up. Okay, so as I was saying, accelerate means basically you can accelerate our speed and probably our reflexes. So it's a buff. She goes, Oh, I see. Like, yeah. So now since you're level 2, basically, we have to basically have you kill monsters again to get you basically further. Just, yes. And basically, this, it seems basically, since I fought a Minotaur on, well, it's in the lower floors, which should have been level 2, it was a level 4, so, like, the stronger the monsters, you'll level up. We should basically focus on getting your basically stats up to basically S or double S rank before we basically have you level up then. So this will basically increase your chances of basically survival and basically help you take on stronger enemies. Which he was, I agree with my liege. Which, basically though, when I get back to the, well, to the guild, I mean the Adventurer Guild, to basically turn in basically my monster cores, I get a very, very, very big amount of basically Valis. Probably like 3 bags, 4 bags worth. And basically I'm just smirking, but then I just look at the like everyone looking at the board. So now we'll cut over to where all the gods meeting is. Talking about the names and such, but this is where every god's technically having an actual meeting before that. Hold up. Okay, so in this meeting, basically, it was called by Uranus. Uranus actually arrives, and he's like, "Hello, everyone. I called this meeting due to someone's request." Which everyone's like, "Huh? What do you mean?" Freya basically is looking over at Uranus, goes like, "Yes, Uranus. What is it basically that, well, requires to be here?" Loki just saying, "Yeah, besides the naming of people, giving basically certain people basically new titles." Which basically, before anyone could say anything, Hestia is there and Hephaestus, they would just say to themselves, "Something doesn't feel right." Well, I mean, Hestia would say that, which Hephaestus would be like, just nods. As then, all of a sudden, black energy, well, a black basically substance of energy coming from the air, then suddenly goes into the ground, then basically a portal, it kind of looks like a portal's opening, such as someone walks through. As when everyone basically sees, one of the basically gods or goddess will shout, "Hades!" As then basically he opens up his eyes and the portal would disappear. He was like, "Ah, feels so good to be up here." Which Uranus is like, "Now Hades, why did you call?" Which, well, I request this meeting. Which everyone's in shock by this, including Loki, Freya, Hestia, Hephaestus, and Hermes, who's basically thinking, "What's your plan, Hades?" Which he goes, "Thank you, Uranus, for calling this meeting on my most urgent request. I have done something terrible to this world. Something that I did not foresee. Even based on the knowledge I learned of it, I did not foresee this to even come, to even, how the basically some other humans would say, bite us in the rear. Well, should I say me, though? Come back and bite me in the rear." Which, one of them says, "Don't you mean butt?" He's like, "Yes, I do." But that's just besides the point. So, I've made this problem without knowing of the consequences because I was bored. Which, everyone's just like, dot, 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 because you were bored? He goes, "Uh-huh." He says that like that, just like, doesn't even care if anyone's mad at him. He's like, "So, allow me to explain it. But first, we must start from the very beginning, where it all began." Well, I mean, from the standpoint of this person, as he goes into Dark Souls, the lore, the gameplay, the game and the gameplay and such, and the mechanic of keep coming back from death. And then he goes into the second one, and then the third of it, and there's the outcome of both of those and the DLCs. Which then he goes into Bloodborne, then Sekiro, then to Code Vein, which is not by the same company, but still a good, basically Souls-like game. Liza P, and then Elden Ring, and finally, Demon Souls. So, this person has the ability to come back from death multiple different times, and he also had the stats from basically said game. Which, everyone just looking at Hades, blinking. Hestia just make groaning out of Hades. Because she doesn't understand what's going on. In which, basically, just one, probably Apollo, would just say, so you mean to tell me, or all of us, you brought someone from a different dimension with these video games, gave him the powers and such, and now, in said multiverse, there's that world, and the abyss from that world is trying to come over here and kill him? He goes, yes, something very simple. Good job, Apollo. Which goes, you didn't think that was ever going to happen? As one of them says, Hades, you idiot! Which another was like, you know what this means. He goes, yes, basically the abyss isn't going to be after him and no one else. But I do recommend you actually further you have your basically children to be stuck in parties and having a few couple high-level ones together to help them basically to increase basically their status faster. Just in case some monsters come around and such. Which, basically, I think just Freya will ask, how dangerous are they? Which, basically, not Apollo, which was probably Loki, goes like, yes, we need to know. Which, Hades will think about it, goes like, well, since beings that took the first flame, as you know, of Gwyn and the other, basically, beings, took it, they became godlike figures. Which that would kind of shocked everyone. Telling they weren't human, but not really human, and, well... The monsters, basically, from these worlds, it could range from easy to very difficult. Like the dragons. The dragons basically are very, very, basically difficult unless you have basically any lightning element on you. So, it all depends on which, basically, monsters, basically, that come through the abyss. Probably even creations of its own. But they won't basically be in the dungeon. Hopefully. Especially not the skeletons. Which, probably just some random god would ask, what's wrong with the skeletons? As then he literally just shows what the skeletons are like. Basically, especially the wheeled ones. And, well... You'll say this, and the person who basically that dealt with these from the game will say this, I hate these skeletons. They are really annoying. Then, yeah. Which, basically, though, after that, Uranus will say, is that all? He goes, well, depending, we may be actually giving some demons here then, too, eventually. Maybe basically some other monsters from Bloodborne. Covane, probably not. Sekiro, maybe. Liza P would just be puppets. And maybe a few humans, but nothing of the sort. Which, I just think one basically gossip will be like, what do you mean, like, how do you know you're telling the truth? Which, basically, Hades will look at her and she kind of basically stiffens up a bit, and then he looks over at Loki. He goes, Loki, can you please basically describe what your, child told you? Which her eyes wide, and she goes, how do you? He goes like, it was interesting because I've been watching him. Which, then she comes to realize who this person is. She's thinking, Soul Kurosaki. So, she basically tells what this basically thing was, that basically her subordinate, her child witnessed, and then he'll bring up the image of Artorias. He goes, this is Artorias the Abyss Walker. A man that was told by his king called Gwyn to basically go and save Princess Dusk, and from the Abyss. He failed. He was corrupted by it eventually, and, a undead basically comes over and kills him. basically then going over to save Princess Dusk, and so on and so forth. Now, though, you must all know this. It's not basically simple. Basically, that monsters are going to attack randomly. No. The Abyss is going to be making that monsters sentient enough to understand basically who's their target. And, well, and how dangerous these things are going to be. Eventually, eventually, basically, this will realize that he truly can't be defeated due to, well, certain conditions. Besides, if he truly does die and such, I'm not gonna let him. I'm getting too much entertainment from him. So, yeah. Also, he's gonna be in a lot of problems mentally. Which I think just some random guy will be like, that's a jerk, be like, of course, he keeps dying. No human can survive that. Which basically Hades just looks at him and goes like, yeah, but if he can't then, he needs to be around people, that will care for him. So, yeah, eventually, and also technically he's essentially would technically mean he doesn't age since he'll just come back again and again, so technically he's immortal? Ageless? Which that would kind of just make everyone blank. Which, basically, though, I think a god's like, wait, before we go into that topic, what's a revenant? Which basically goes like, oh, a vampire. What's a vampire? A creature that drinks blood. In the night. It can only be out at night, but since they technically can be out during the day, because they're a revenant, they only need to drink blood. So, that's all being taken care of, though, by their goddess. So, yeah. Which I just think some figure it out and just scream out, he's drinking their goddess's blood. He goes, willingly. It's that, or basically he feasts on some random people. So, they kind of just stop and, blink. Which I think just a random person, a random person or Uranus will say, so essentially, the more basically blood he drinks, he'll become essentially immortal. Not a god, or a demigod, but immortal. He goes, age slowly though. More precisely. A little bit more than anyone else. So, yeah. Which, basically, one random guy will ask, so does that mean he can be with gods? Or goddesses? Which Hades just has a smirking, like, oh, the torture for him. I love saying this. Which then he just looks at them and like, yes. He could be with any other, basically, demi-human, human, or goddess. Since they are male. Which that just basically gets some, basically, goddesses to, perk up. While some are thinking. While Hestia and Hephaestus and Freya, unknowingly to herself, are basically getting mad at Hades. And Hades can feel the bloodlust coming off. And he just chuckles and goes like, Freya. Who knew you'd be basically so interested in him? Hephaestus. Very, very basically surprising. And Hestia? Oof. Poor Belle Cronell. So yeah, as they said, some of the three women basically realized they were basically being mad at Hades for this. And Hestia already knew why. I cannot believe it. Hephaestus would just be like shocked to herself. But Freya's like, ... why? So yeah. So anyways, as after basically all think that, Hades will like, well, I better be going, everyone. Hope you have a nice day with everything. But remember, have basically your children get stronger. And besides, the monsters are getting stronger in the dungeon. Since I technically know about these worlds, I can basically have the dungeon make any of these monsters. Bye. As basically, he just leaves. As Uranus just takes a deep sigh, be like, we must increase basically your children's basically level, experience basically of level going up, which most of the gods would nod, even though there are some small time ones. He was like, "Now I must be going." As then Uranus will leave, then the whole entire basically reason they were there will basically for the leveling of the not leveling the names of their children will be add on to it. Hold up. So, Belle would get his name basically Little Rookie, which Freya did not leave yet, but basically Hestia was kind of shocked because I would think Loki in this one would actually, you know, basically try to talk to her about Belle's, basically rapid growth because of the whole entire, people are growing rapidly. So they have more names they need to give. But when they basically come to the paper called Hunter, which basically Loki's like, oh, looks like we don't have a name basically or a face for this. The guild's not telling us. I wonder why. Basically, as Freya just kind of chuckled, was like, don't you think it's basically our mystery person? Which basically Hestia's like, yeah, does it say basically which goddess they're from? Which basically Loki looks at it, sees it, but says, no. But then how are we going to, which basically, the random god said, which, well, Loki says it doesn't matter. We basically have his confirmation become on level 2, and basically there may be no picture besides a drawing, which basically that just makes Hestia blink, and basically Loki shows it all, which flashback to where Otar was, a little bit where Otar was basically waiting for Freya to stop crying after seeing how many times I died. He then go on to explain how he told the guild about he saw a weird ant, and basically the guild said, basically, well, they were sending out adventurers to go kill it, which then Otar told them no need since someone else already did it. They asked who. He says he didn't know who they were, but then gave them a description, and they had someone drew it. Which, yeah, they just showed the picture of basically what my character looks like with the hat on and basically the mask and basically the collar up and such. So, not really basically much of a basically whole entire body picture. Which, yeah, just like all the gods and gods are saying, he's wearing a mask? Which basically Freya was saying, interesting, keeping himself hidden. He's being smart. Which Loki goes, yep, no one can really tell who he is, since he gave everyone basically a fake name. Only Hunter. He's like, I think he's basically going for the Hunter of Prey. Which just some random basically god will say, wait, does that mean he's thinking the monsters in the dungeon as prey? Which Hermes goes like, interesting person, sounds like. So, they basically started saying some random names that would basically, try to, make it where it would be very hilarious. But then Loki, just says it's enough of the arguing already. This is the last person, so let's make it simple. One word. Which everyone's trying to say something, but basically Hestia is about to say something, but then all of a sudden, Freya says, wolf. Which they all look at her. He goes, Wolf Hunter. Fits perfectly. Doesn't it, Loki? A very intimidating name. Even though basically it says many people think he will only hunt wolves. But no, he is a wolf that hunts down a prey and as you may know. So, a wolf hunter, or basically hunter wolf. Which Loki says, actually, wolf hunter does sound pretty neat. It gives it a sense of intimidation and mystery. But we will basically have to have his name. Basically, and which basically god, or well, which goddess he's in, which random goddesses are basically raising up their hand, and basically saying it's me, which then basically Loki says no. One where basically well, it has to be basically a goddess that would have basically, well, as Hades said, he feed on their blood. So, if anyone has any marks on them, they are basically a part of that familia, which basically Hestia's like, Loki, what are you doing? In which, basically, all the goddesses basically just sit down. She looked basically the only ones that weren't up were basically Hephaestus, which she nods no. And then basically Loki says, he's not part of my familia. Then Freya says, and not mine, and none of all of you. Which basically just Hestia just gulps. In which basically like all the gods and goddesses are just blinking. Which basically Freya just looks at her, basically Hestia with a little bit of apology look, and kind of just teases her like, so, have you basically ever bitten before, Hestia? And then she basically instantly covered her neck, which all the goddesses are shocked by this, including the gods. And I think Aphrodite's technically in, here in the basically the city of Orion, whatever. And she was like, she just basically, so Aphrodite would be there, I would think, and be like, wait, you don't mean, which basically, some of the gods say, he should be in my familia. In some goddesses, in which basically Loki just says, if it's who I think it is, he will never join anyone's familia. Which they all look at her immediately, which basically has to be like, what do you mean? Which basically, she just literally says it straight up to everyone. I literally gave him an opportunity already once. He denied me. He said he wouldn't basically be in my familia or anyone else's. He only would be in basically one familia, and that's the one he'll trust the most. Which everyone's eyes widen, and basically like, which I think just some random, probably Apollo, be like, what do you mean he'll trust the most? How could he trust basically Hestia's basically familia? Well, we basically have, there are basically some of us here who are basically are well known, and which Loki says, I thought about it, and basically that's the reason why. We basically have high number of people, everyone will be looking at us. He'd rather basically be in the down low and not basically be noticed, and work his way up, basically making his familia stronger. So, for him, it would seem like it'd be a waste of time to go to anyone who has more than basically a few people. Say me and Freya's familia. We would kick him out if he doesn't have no basically talent, we would think. Because he's not progressing as quickly as we would like him to. While basically Hestia here will basically be way more understanding and basically keep him around. Not out of pity, but because she know if he puts in the hard work, he eventually will be rewarded. Isn't that right, Hestia? Which, after Loki says that, was basically a little bit of a smirk, which she would nod slowly and goes like, yes, I agree with Loki, and besides, out of all of you here, you would try to make him seem like he's basically, I would say, better, brag about it. Basically, try to basically make him, tell you basically things such as, I guess, his, adventures or such. Or, I don't know how anyone else works, but be very nosy in his life. I believe that he's the type of person that keeps everything to himself. Which basically she will look at basically Hestia, which Hestia would nod. He goes, yes, besides, he literally did say he wouldn't basically join basically the Freya familia in his life. He'd rather basically die. Which Freya just be like blinking. Everyone's in shock. As all the male gods are like, how dare he say it? And before they can finish, Freya just starts laughing at that. Which she doesn't understand why. Basically, she just basically, after she stops laughing, she was like, no one's ever said that before. I'm actually very, glad for that. Which they're actually just in shock. Which basically, Freya does say, well, it looks like you have an interesting child on your hands, Hestia. Take good care of him. Which she would nod. Basically, though, I think one, probably God, what Goddess would ask, By the way, his soul system. What's his stats and level? It doesn't work like our system, which Hestia goes, oh no, it doesn't at all. Basically like, huh? Basically she says he has so many stats, he basically can spread it out, and basically he's already in the 200 range. Which everyone's just blinking. Basically he's in level 2 range. He's 239. Which, that just floors everyone. Yep. which basically just... well, just basically... Loki goes, anyways, we'll send out the names and such. And this is basically everything adjourned. So, after that, we go back to me when I get there and basically seeing all the commotion. And then I see basically... Belle... I know basically it was like... It's been like a couple... It's been like hours and such, but so it was like... Basically I see Belle's, based on the board being named and such, and I go, Belle, little rookie? And then... Huh. They basically just show basically a picture of me, basically wearing the hat, mask cover, collar up, and saying Hunter, title, Wolf Hunter. Which, they're like... Everyone's like, why basically they gave him Wolf? And Hunter? Some people are just making a joke, so like, let me guess, he's hunting wolves? And more experienced people would say, you idiot. It means basically he's a wolf that's hunting down his prey. Basically monsters. The ferocity he will show to them is basically means like a wolf. He'll stalk, let them basically tire themselves out and kill them. If he basically, when he sees an opening. But he's only a lone wolf, so... I wonder if you basically would basically make any problems out there in the dungeon for us. Which basically they're like, yeah. Wait a minute, when did he start? Which basically, I think we go back to the gods when everyone's leaving. Then all of a sudden, then Hermes goes, like, wait a minute, how long did he start? Which basically Hestia goes like, not that long ago. Which basically Loki goes like, oh yeah, he started 3 weeks ago, almost a month ago. Which basically was just like a month. Which yeah, since basically Hestia's basically Belle Cronell basically only been here for basically 2 months. He basically was a month and a half. He broke basically Eyes' record. I'm not mad at that. Yeah, and now basically everyone sees that, and basically all of a sudden I just like chuckle a bit. Like, which all of a sudden they look and they see me, they look back and basically everyone's just kind of like saying, you must have cheated! Some of them basically, I just look at them being silent. I just started walking away. Basically, which basically, just multiple different others, probably like it was only 5 people that said that. Then multiple other people saying, you idiot, the dungeon's getting more dangerous, remember? Of course someone will be basically getting level up faster than us. He probably basically been down there multiple different times, trying to basically earn his keep. Besides, he's from the Hestia Familia. Of course basically he would have to. He's trying to support him and basically another member plus his goddess. Idiots. Basically, someone would say. So yeah, so after that, basically, we get back, Hestia would tell Belle... Wait. Hold up. Okay, so after that, basically, Hestia would tell Belle about the little rookie. Basically kind of be a little bit upset about it because it's not cool. Then basically Belle was like, hey, what did you get? Wolf Hunter. Or just Wolf. Which is like, huh? They just put basically Wolf in front of my Hunter name. Well, my alias Hunter. Which is like, that makes your name sound a little bit cool. He goes like, or cheesy. People think I'm just going to be a hunter of wolves. But some people understood it. It means I'm a wolf that's hunting down my prey. Which he's like, still makes it sound cool. Oh yeah, by the way, I want to know, can you tell me about Artorias? which basically like, huh? So basically, Hestia goes, I told him about, everything. He didn't understand basically what I was told, so he asked that, which I'm like, oh, okay. So I told him about Tori. And Tori's fully in detail of what I know, besides the whole entire, basically, princess, well, even about going saying Princess Dusk and everything. So he's like, wow, someone like that was corrupted by the Abyss? They're like, yep. Now the Abyss is after me. That means basically monsters are going to become even stronger. Probably going to be a few new monsters in the dungeon from Dark Souls. Give me a pain in my butt. But what can I do? But she's like, yeah. But hey, I'll get stronger. I'll basically keep on helping out whenever I can. Like, yep. But you're going to need some new armor, Belle. She go out there and basically buy some. Here. Basically, I throw him a bag of Valis. But based on that, I give him my other bag to basically Hestia. Which she goes, I can't. I go, just take it. Alright? Just pat her on the head. Her face got a little bit flushed. She was like, thanks. I'm like, no problem. Which basically, though, she was like, wait a minute. Here. She basically run over basically to the basically closet and basically take out basically a present that's wrapped. She goes, here, I wanted to give you this. I didn't see the opportunity to give you it until now. Which I basically would take and I'm like, thanks. And I open it. And then I would see basically it's a sketchbook. Basically, would kind of basically have leather basically wrapped around and string. Will have like basically a button there for it to basically be looped around. And basically a pencil in it. I'm like, this is great. Thanks. I used to like to draw. I used to have a small smile on my face, and she basically has a bright smile on her face too. Which Belle's like, really? Can you draw something? Sure. What do you want me to draw? She was, well, not she, I mean, he's like, ooh, could it be a really good weapon? Which I'm like, okay. I know a lot of them. Huh. Let's make it the Berserk sword from Guts. Yeah. Well, no, I wouldn't call it the Berserk sword. I'll call it the Dragon Slayer sword from basically Berserk. That Guts wheel. She goes, which they asked, what's that? He goes, basically it's just a huge slab of metal that was made into a sword. And no one could really wield it besides the main character of said anime called Guts. At least I'm just starting to draw as I'm basically remembering it. And I'm like, Guts is basically a man that has suffered through many different things. Many dark things that has happened in his life. He lost an arm, an eye. Basically his beloved, or girlfriend was, well, let's just say her mind broke due to what has happened. It was all right in front of him too. Which Belle's like, what do you mean? He goes like, violated. Which basically has his eyes widen. He was like, no. He goes, yep, and demons came to his world. Grotesque monsters. Vile creatures. They didn't care about much. And all of a sudden, as I stopped, I just realized, which I'm like, what the? As basically Belle's like, huh? What's wrong? He was like, I drew the sword perfectly. Which Hestia looks at it. She goes, and I drew Guts? Wow. I drew basically a panel shot of him holding the sword on his back. But she goes, yeah, it's basically the same size or it's bigger than him. Which basically Belle's like, and it's huge. I'm like, yeah, it's heavy. But how did I basically then all of a sudden I remember my skill stat. Which I basically look at Hestia, which I'm like, Hestia, doesn't my skill stat affect me in basically any skilled weapons? She goes, yes, but maybe the unknown god or goddess made it where it'll affect you in anything that requires any skill? So basically, you gain skills and experience in something? Which, basically before I can even say anything, a note would appear Well, actually, no. An actual basically screen will pop up, basically as a video will basically start playing, as I hear hello, hello, basically male, female voice basically echoing with each other, which I you, which basically all of a sudden they see cloak and no face and stuff, and he goes, yes, it is I, the unknown god or goddess for you. So I was watching and I heard basically was seeing that you were very confused. Allow me to explain. I basically thought, why not basically allow you to have any skill, basically like technique or such, with basically the more stats you get into that skill stat, you'll be able to draw basically very well in certain things. Basically, the more skill you have, the more detailed a picture can be from your memory. Since basically drawing just basically got holding basically the weapon while he's in a cloak wasn't really that much of a problem. We were basically able to draw it fully. But you have to basically have a good, clear picture in your mind. So basically, most that requires a skill, basically trait or talent for it, you're able to do now with your skill stat. Have fun knowing that. Which I'm like, I'm going to, as basically the god slash goddess basically video cuts off and then basically it disappears. I just sigh and be like, they make everything a problem and yet easier for me all at the exact same time. Which basically Bella's like, was that? I'm like, yep. That's the unknown god or goddess I'm gonna kill. Which Bella's like, you're gonna kill a god or goddess? I'm like, in Elden Ring I face against demigods and I do end up killing a god. So yes. He just looks horrified. I think he would. I'm like, I told you this already. He's like, oh yeah, he forgot. Which is a sigh. And basically Hestia was like, well, maybe if you basically do detailed panels and such of armor, Hephaestus can help you make it. I'm like, true. And with my blacksmith ability, maybe easy? And making magical items. Yeah. So basically I tell Hestia I'm going to be taking a break from going to the dungeon for a couple of days. She goes, do you want me to update your stats? I'm like, not yet. I want to basically have it wait for a bit. Alright? She will nod. So, while that's going on, basically everything will happen with basically Belle will happen with basically Welf and Lily too. He meets Welf, basically Lily basically meets him and such, and they will be in the dungeon, but beforehand, I basically would go to Hephaestus. Like, Hephaestus, you here? She goes, yes. Basically, she's just coming up after, basically carrying something, which I'm like, here, let me help. She basically, grab it out of her, grab basically some of it out of her hands, which is basically more than one thing. She goes, thanks. What is it? He goes, well, I, have a proposition for you. Since you're my... She goes, okay, my office done. What about this? She goes, oh. Alright, follow me. So yeah, I follow her, put the stuff away, we leave. Welf kind of was in there, and, got to talk to her, but then saw me, would be kind of confusing. But then, kind of think it's a new client or something. So yeah, he'll wait. So basically, she'll basically sit down at her desk, and I'm like, what is it? I'm like, here. Show her basically it's a sketchbook. Hestia gave me it. She basically opens up the first page and see a huge, giant, basically, sword, which she goes, this is just a hunk of metal. Like, no, that's called a Dragon Slayer sword. It's from the world of Berserk. Not bad looking, huh? She goes, yeah. Then she flips over to the next page, and I basically made, well, I basically made, I drew the picture of basically the Berserk armor, with Guts basically, in the position where he was in the first time we ever seen it. She was like, that's an armor called the Berserk armor. It works just similar to my soul consumption skill. Basically, though, unlike that, I will keep fighting until basically I run out of souls and I won't die. While basically with the Berserk armor, basically will keep the person attached together by reattaching its limbs, but it doesn't basically, sew them up I mean, not sew them, not reattach their limbs. But basically, would fix their limbs by holding it together to keep them moving. Not a permanent fix, just a temporary one until he's basically finished killing whatever he's killing, or until he dies. Then she's like, wow, and then basically she looks at, not the next page, but the page that would be next to it, and basically she sees a long katana. Very long. And a man holding it. Basically goes, wait, this katana? I'm like, yeah, that's a katana wielded by the most greatest video game villains of all time. His name is Sephiroth. And his katana, hold up. And the katana name is Masamune. I'm kind of thinking of making it, but I have a feeling I'm getting a lot of different items to make it. She goes, huh? What do you mean? He goes like, well, the katana is strong enough to cut through basically metal, basically 3 times or 4 times thicker than basically what it should be. Which her eyes widen. He was like, well, technically Sephiroth is a super soldier, so with that basically given with it, yeah. But, and with me, I think I can do it, but I need to basically create a sword like that, so probably have to create multiple different weapons and such, then I can just basically transfer or basically weld them all together to make one katana. Which basically beforehand, she can even say anything, all of a sudden just she grabs her head and such, which I'm like, Hephaestus! Which I just run over, basically, holding her because she was about to fall and such. Which basically, when after a few seconds, the pain will stop, and I'm like, is everything alright? Which she goes like, yes, I just gained something. Which I'm like, huh? What do you mean? The knowledge how to make soul weapons? My eyes widen and like, wait, does that mean the unknown goddess or god? She goes, it's, I basically gained how to make them, but it says I won't reach it, but I can combine souls with boss monsters' cores? Which, my eyes widen and such, which I'm like, wait, does that mean if you kill a boss in the dungeon, you'd be able to basically be able to make a boss weapon from it? It doesn't have to be much from the core. A small amount of it will still do. Which basically I'm like, how many souls will I need? Just, I have to make certain equipments though. I'll basically take time for this, but we'll be able to make a weapon for basically boss souls, and basically I think I even gain a new basically system for forging, which I'm like, wait, seriously? Yeah, I don't know, but I think it's called synthesize or transmutate or I don't know, which I'm like, explain it. She goes, it's basically where I can take one item and then fuse it with another, but basically though it's not, well, taking away the original weapon. Say the weapon that you made, you want to basically give it better stats, and you have like a fire magic attack on it. You basically take the fire magic attack, and then basically you turn that into a different material, and then basically you fuse it with the weapon, and the weapon would change a bit but still look the same. Which I'm just like, synthesize may be true, but weapon synthesification. I just saying that loud, which I'm like, which he just shrugs, like, I'll have to test it out on any weapons I make now. See basically how strong they are. Basically, though, she goes, but this does make everything a lot more interesting since I don't have to use my godly powers for it. Which I'm like, cool. Only if I make god level weapons, though. Which I'm like, oh. Just, anyways, she basically will look through some of the pictures I drew from other basically animes that have swords that were really good, and or basically games, and she goes, some of these look good. Some of these basically will take a lot of materials to make that will basically make it the way you will want it, since you did put like how you want this weapon to be. Which I'm like, heh, yeah. It's only been like 4 pages and such. But, She goes, I know. Anyways, here. I just basically take it back and put it away. She goes, now then. I was basically going to meet up with someone from my familia and talk to them about it. But thank you, though, for being worried about me after my headache. I'm like, no, it's my fault, since I'm here and all. She goes, so, it's not. Now get going back to the dungeon, alright? Which I would not and such, but I was saying, but what about my blacksmithing training? She goes, oh, we'll do that tomorrow. You just go to the dungeon. Which I technically didn't. I just basically went around basically trying to look for basically some different things so I can try and train in. So I can basically just start working out and such. So, the only time I do go back into the dungeon will be probably basically after Wealth. No, since basically Wealth met Belle and then they go into the dungeon with Lily. I would just be walking around basically doing that, and then for like the next day, I just basically been working with Hephaestus. Just working on more basically training and such. Which basically with the skill and then the adaptability, it's going pretty way more quicker for her. So yeah. So basically, meanwhile with basically just Lily, I mean, yeah, meanwhile with Lily though, she basically has been walking around, basically just eating something, and then she would basically kind of remember about me saving her and then saving them again. She basically would look at basically the random sword that she will look in the manga, but then she's thinking, should I basically get something for him to thank him? But then basically, Guelph was saying, hey, a little bit, I think they said outfit's going to be a little bit too big on you. In which she turns around and goes like, it's not what you think. Besides, I'm not thinking of that. When she goes, huh? I thought you were. She goes, what do you think I was thinking of? That basically and something. He goes, yeah, showing it to Belle. But she goes, no. Besides, it's not that I was thinking I wanted to buy a present for someone to thank them. Which I basically raised that eyebrow. Which he goes, huh? The wolf hunter basically saved me and before, so I wanted to thank him. He goes, oh. She basically would nod. By the way, everything happened in the tavern like it did in canon. Just basically, though, Belle did tell Mom and me about me also leveling up, but I haven't really been there since he would say I'm basically was trying to find some things to do, basically, other than going to the dungeon, like get more hobbies. So, basically, whenever time I come, she basically, Belle gave me a message. Next time I come over there to eat, basically, they'll make me have a celebration for me to level up. In secret. Well, a secret one. Which, yeah. So basically, Wealth was like, so what does the guy like? She goes, I don't know. Which basically Wealth just shrugs like, if he basically is a normal guy, he'll basically take whatever basically he gets. Not complain. Which she just sighs and goes, I hope so. Which basically Belle, who knows basically who she's talking about, goes like, oh, he will. He won't really mind. Besides, Hunter's really nice, so he'll probably thank you for it. So yeah. Which Lily basically would turn around. He's like, wait, really? Which he doesn't, which Belle would nod. He goes, anyways, we should probably basically try to figure out where we're gonna go soon, basically down to the dungeon. If we should go basically to medium, like the lower floor or not. After we basically go this time around. Which basically Lily would nod. And so, basically, they would do that. Me basically getting further in my basically training with basically Festus and blacksmithing, and basically finding some actual basically decent gear to train in. So, I think basically we would just be there at Festus, where she's like, you're doing really well, and you created some decent armor. I basically prepared this just where you can basically forge it any way you wanted it. And I'm like, yep. Made some pretty good light gear armor. She was, yeah. Why does it look like though a thief's armor? Which I'm like, oh. Well, kind of took inspiration from the Thief video game. And basically I made it like this. Basically there's basically, even though it's made of metal, which it wasn't in the game. It was basically not. I made it basically where it's very thin and flexible, using basically more softer material from the inside to make sure it doesn't basically chafe around anywhere, and basically it would be easier, way more, basically an extra layer of, protection. And the outside, even though basically it looks like actual, it actually has like actual, silk, cotton, basically clothing on it. I mean, still very well. Because, somehow I was able to infuse it with it. I don't know how I did it, though. It was a good test for basically your, soul synchronizing. Weapon synchronizing. Sympathizing, right? Because we had to come up with a name with it. I'm like, true. Just synthesizer would do for now, I guess. She goes, yeah. You're able to synthesize the metals into it and such. With basically just a little bit of souls. I'm like, only cost me about maybe 200 souls. So that I'm down to basically 5,000 and 800. 5,800 souls. She goes, it's interesting how it didn't cost so much. I'm like, yeah, but hey, good basically new sets of armor now for thief. She goes, you're gonna become a thief, aren't you? I'm like, nope. Well, maybe. It'd be good to wear basically outside of it. Actually show my face, and I'd be called Hunter. Even covers up my arm. She goes, true. True. So, you gonna go into the dungeon later? I'm like, yep. I'm going basically during tonight, basically then buy some stuff for Belle for tomorrow. She goes, huh? Give it to Lily for when they go down to the lower floor of the dungeons, basically the medium area. She goes, oh. Yeah. Anyways, thanks, Hephaestus. I'm gonna get going. Basically, I put the armor in my, armory and such and would leave. Which, basically, Hephaestus would smile, while I was leaving and say, alright, you too. When I left, though, she basically would just smile and basically goes like, I really am glad I met him. A lot of things are interesting around here. Basically, then while she basically would go down to her desk and such, she goes, then I think she'll realize, wait, am I actually falling for him? And that's where we're going to leave it off, everyone, because I was just going to say, like, blink, blink, and do something, but I was like, nah. So, yeah. Anyways, bye. I got to get going. I got to charge my phone for work, so see you around, everyone.